Three Count Commentaries is on the air, and today we're talking about Money in the Bank, the 3.5 hour extravaganza. We've said before that Money in the Bank seemed like a really big pay per view. I think it has replaced Survivor Series as one of the big four pay per views, and I think this show actually proves how important the Money in the Bank property is for WWE because they threw everything at this show, and it was an all timer. It was really good. Even if you disagree with some of the decisions that were made, I still think that it was a very worthy show. It was a little long. I mean, 3.5 hours was that was a bit much, but it all worked out in the end, I think. So let's get into match one, the men's Money in the Bank ladder match, which was won by Damian Priest, the one person nobody thought would win. Now, a lot of people, of course, pitched an absolute fit that LA Knight did not win the Money in the Bank. Similar to Cody not beating Roman Reigns, similar to Sami Zayn not beating Roman Reigns, similar to Drew McIntyre not beating Roman Reigns in Wales. This ended up being a pretty big deal. Everybody hears the reaction for LA Knight. Everybody was worried it would be Logan Paul. Very, very few people saw Damian Priest coming. But let's argue this point before we really get into the match. Damian Priest winning is typical WWE booking, in so much that they treat a guy like a Brillo pad for several weeks, and then out of nowhere he wins the big one. You could tell this was kind of what they were doing by having Damian Priest lose to Seth Rollins and then lose to Cody and then lose and lose and lose, be the guy that gets pinned in tag team matches and stuff, because they were basically getting all his jobs out of the way because he might not be losing for a while. Or he could be treated like some of the other Money in the Bank winners where he just loses all the time. But I will say this. Judgment Day has been one of the acts WWE has been traditionally pushing for the last few months. So continuing that Judgment Day push with Damian Priest winning should not have been that much of a surprise, because it's story first. Yes, LA Knight winning would have been a huge pop, but then you have to worry about the next day, the next moment, and then what are you going to do? Did you give him the briefcase, but then you never actually cash in and give him the title? Or do you give him the briefcase and then you basically have promised him the title, and then what? We cut Rollins Reigns short for LA Knight? I saw a lot of people say that we should have just struck while the iron was hot when it comes to LA Knight. And people always say that. People always say strike while the iron's hot, jump on the new thing while it's the new thing. And they don't have any thought to what could happen later on, about thinking long term. There was some conversation, and I'm going to give lip service to this conversation because I think it actually makes some sense about the LA Knight thing, about how WWE likes to milk things, that they drag things out instead of just going with the moment. There's something to be said there about that you do sometimes want to strike while the iron is hot. You want to strike while the iron is hot as possible. At the same time, though, if you can keep getting the iron hot, you don't worry too much about when to strike, but you should at some point strike when the iron's hot. So a lot of people are very disappointed, very upset that LA Knight didn't win. I, however, was more surprised it was Damian Priest than anything. I'm not offended, not upset. I'm beyond that point. Like, I very rarely get upset at wrestling matches now, especially when these things where I don't hate Damian Priest. I like Damian Priest in NXT. I liked him on the main roster. I like him now. I think they had a plan for him with the Bad Bunny stuff. He worked with Bad Bunny in Puerto Rico. They did the Bad Bunny tag team match last year at WrestleMania. So they have been putting him in big spots. Also, when it comes to Damian Priest, he's a guy who is as old as LA Knight. Like, he's a birthday away from being like the same age as LA Knight. So you have two guys, both of whom are in their 40s, essentially. And you are left with one guy who's already over. You're not pinning him, you're not making him submit, but he's just not winning this match. And then you have another guy who's kind of lukewarm, who you can raise his stock by giving him the Money in the Bank. And they chose to go with the latter, which I'm okay with because they went with story first rather than pop. They went with story first. So I'm okay with it. Doesn't stop LA Knight from being a star. It's not going to prevent LA Knight from being a world champion in the future. It's not going to upset anything in terms of LA Knight's promotion or his marketing or anything like that. It really just got him really close and then it pulled it away, which of course gets annoying. You know, the old, you get so close and then you pull away. Everybody's been doing that. WWE has done that 2 or 3 times a year for the last 2 years. They would get you really, really close and then they pull you away. And people are annoyed by that. And I get it. At the same time, though, won't it be better if it's actually earned rather than given? And this is something that LA Knight talked about on SmackDown, where he says that, you know, everything that he's gotten, he's earned. In this situation, being given the Money in the Bank is being microwaved. He doesn't need to be microwaved. He's already over. So if he is as over as everybody says he is, then he will remain over and it won't be that big of a deal. If he is, you know, Zack Ryder, then, you know, maybe it's a little bit different. But if it's Zack Ryder, then people will forget sooner rather than later anyway, because wrestling fans, despite the fact that we do have long memories, we do understand that some things are a flash in the pan, you know, and they are. But some people are conspiracy theorists. They're taking this as LA Knight has enemies in the office and all this kind of stuff. It's like, not really. Look at how weak this card is in terms of the Money in the Bank match. It's incredibly weak. Butch and Santos Escobar is in this match. Like, come on. You know, Shinsuke Nakamura hasn't mattered in years, you know. So it was a soft card. It was perfect setup for LA Knight. It seemed like that's the direction they were going in. They put a lot of marketing and a lot of heat behind LA Knight just to yank it away from him in the end. But we don't know where this is going. So we might as well just chill and see where this is going. All right, now let's get into this match. I don't want to go through blow by blow for this match, especially since it's a ladder match, which means there's just a ton of spots. There's 100 spots. The Logan Paul Ricochet spots, which I blame on Ricochet. Now, why? The spot goes that, I forget who it was, maybe it was Damian Priest, pushed Logan Paul, or no, it was LA Knight. It pushed Logan Paul and Ricochet off the ladder. They were both supposed to catch their feet on the top rope and be positioned. Ricochet was going to crawl over, hook Logan Paul into a Spanish fly. It was going to be a great looking spot. What happened was Logan Paul slipped. And even though he slipped, Ricochet continued with the spot anyway, without letting Logan Paul set himself. This could have ended very, very badly. And I blame Ricochet for it. Logan Paul is essentially a rookie. Yes, it's a complicated spot for a rookie, but Ricochet should have noticed that he's not set yet. He's not ready to do the jump. And Logan Paul jumped anyway. He ended up being okay. He basically just sliced open his shoulder. But it looked ugly. And it looked bad. So we need to maybe uncomplicate some of these things for Logan Paul, man. Because even no matter how athletic a guy is, mistakes happen, stuff happens, and you want to make sure that these guys are ready when you are yanking them off the top rope. Even though I think he kind of jumped, you know, but he still was clearly not stable when the move was happening. Damian Priest did a broken arrow on LA Knight off the top rope. Off the top of the ladder. That's what kind of the end for LA Knight. A lot of people was disappointed in that. So it was a lot of spots, typical of a Money in the Bank ladder match. Big shocking finish. Crowd wasn't happy with it, you know, clearly. But it's hard to say. You know, they put it on first for a reason. They put it on first because they knew people were not going to be happy with this result. But it's okay. You know, we'll all be okay. LA Knight will probably win the U.S. title or something like that. And we'll which probably is the better move anyways for him to win another championship. So we're okay. Okay. So WWE is promoting Bud Light for the rest of the night. Bud Light, which has found itself in a lot of trouble over the trans stuff. Look, it's beer. I don't drink beer. I never drank beer. I never liked beer. I'm not a big fan of beer in general. So I don't really care. But it says something where, you know, Bud Light feels like the only option they got is to invade the children's wrestling program, which should make me more suspicious. It's like, okay, you went from trying to push the trans agenda to now, you know, we're going to invade the children's wrestling program with our adverts. But it is what it is. I ain't tripping, man. I'm not about to lose my mind over Bud Light. WWE does business with all kinds of companies and governments and stuff that I don't care for. It's just another thing, another cost of doing business and watching this crazy product. All right, the second match, the women's tag team title, Liv Morgan, Raquel Rodriguez versus they defeat Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey. The turn was crazy. Shayna Baszler attacked Ronda Rousey from behind in the middle of the match. Like, in the middle of the match, Shayna attacked Ronda, choked her out. Ronda, she sold it. She didn't sell it a lot, but she sold it. And that led to Ronda Rousey being pinned. And I'm telling you, these women's tag teams, you thought it was silly that they broke up Cora Jade and Roxanne Perez like a week after they won the titles. They breaking up teams now in the middle of the match. Next, they're going to break up teams before they even make the team. Like, you know, the team barely put together and they already feuding and breaking up. They're not really giving these tag teams a chance. You know, they're not giving them they're not letting them breathe. Look, the Ronda Rousey thing is a struggle anyway, because she's positioned as the babyface here, but the crowd absolutely erupted when Shayna Baszler turned on Ronda. Nobody likes Ronda Rousey. It's going to be very, very hard to get people to believe that Ronda Rousey is the babyface in this situation. How do we then justify Shayna Baszler being the babyface in this situation when she attacked Ronda from behind? So I guess we're going to have to blame Ronda did something during the match, or she said something in a promo or something to that effect. And that's why Shayna acts the way she acts. But I was actually looking forward to Shayna and Ronda having a run. You know, I know that I didn't really care about this match, but I was looking forward to them having a run. You know, so it's very unfortunate that it happened this way. But so Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez are the tag team champions again. Raquel is off the track of wrestling Rhea Ripley, which is what I wanted her to do. Whatever. Liv Morgan comes back, is in the exact same spot she was in before she left. Okay. Anyway, there was a massive thank you Shayna chant. An absolutely massive thank you Shayna chant. I don't have it in me to thank Shayna Baszler for doing this. I just don't have it in me. Sorry. The Intercontinental Championship, Gunther defeats Riddle. I like this match. It was very good. It was physical. It was technical. It was one of these matches that you probably would have seen on television back in the 90s, like a Raw main event. So it was a really good match. It didn't overstay its welcome. They didn't do too much. They went in there. They both were physical. They both were laying in their stuff. Gunther was, vicious, and the stomps and the chops and everything. Michael Cole is sitting around here talking about Riddle and Volta wrestling in progress. I'm like, oh, what the hell do you know about that? Come on. Don't give me that like you actually watched that product. Stop it. Forget it. The silliness of this match, one thing that was silly, was leading into the finish where Gunther just starts spanking the ankle of Matt Riddle. He just like spank his ankle and then put him in like an ankle lock. I was like, what in the hell? I get it. It was supposed to be chops. I know. But it just looks like he was spanking his ankle, like he was spanking his foot. And I'm just like, why? Like, what's going on here? Can you not spank the foot? Keep your fetishes to yourself. Anyway, Riddle, hard fought match. Riddle loses, no big deal. I liked it. After the match, Drew McIntyre returned. Crowd erupts again. Absolutely massive moment. Drew stares down Walter. Walter pie-faced Drew McIntyre, just kind of shoved him in the face. Drew McIntyre replied with a headbutt and a claymore. The crowd was just absolutely hot, for this. Michael Cole yelling about Drew McIntyre's demise and his contractual whatever with WWE was false. The rumors were false. I was like, okay, good way of just giving us a break from Drew, just taking him off TV for a little while. All right. Of course, I was left with the questions like, where was Ludwig Kaiser? Where was Giovanni Vinci? Where were these guys when Drew McIntyre just popped up and beat up Walter? Like, where were these guys? But whatever. What can I say? What can I say? All right, the next match, the apparent main event: Cody Rhodes versus Dominic Mysterio. The London, of course, was singing Cody's theme song. Cody wins in a match that was it had a little bit of a flat finish. It felt like a 1996 Superstars match. Like if you just saw Shawn Michaels wrestle the 1-2-3 Kid or something like that on television. That's what this felt like. It felt like a big star versus an upper mid-carder. And you don't need to go overboard in order to beat them. No need to do 3 crossroads. No need to do, blood and fire and all this kind of stuff. They worked it very simple. Dominic is an annoyance. He was being very annoying. But I will say this. Early in the match, when Dominic was kind of avoiding Cody, he hit Cody with a punch. And it was a very Jeff Jarrett-like punch. And I have to say, it was probably the most impressive punch I've seen, not thrown by somebody who's over the age of 40 in a while. Usually it's the kind of punch you see from somebody who's older. Because a lot of these guys, they start doing the weak-ass forearm shivers. But that was a really good, solid punch that he threw. So I actually want to give him credit for that. I want to stop and give Dominic credit for throwing a decent punch and being basically a young wrestler who knows how to throw a decent punch. There's plenty of Rhea Ripley interference and distractions. She looked good tonight. Like the nice little hairstyle she had going on there. It was nice. Rhea Ripley was doing it. Not necessarily my style. She's a little bulky for me, but yeah, she was hot here. And the crowd was hot for Dominic. They hated Dominic. Cody got everybody in the palm of his hand right now. So it was a really good match. The finish comes with Cody countering the 619 into a spinning Alabama Slam, which I haven't seen in ages. I haven't seen the Alabama Slam literally in ages. I don't know when the last person I saw do an Alabama Slam. And right after that, it was into the Crossroads. Very, very solid finish. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Fun stuff. Fun Superstars match for Cody and Dominic. We get a genuine surprise. Out of nowhere, here comes John Cena. And he's wearing his G.I. Joe themed gear, with the hat, with the shirt and everything. That's part of the why he was out there, is because he want everybody to see he's got new merchandise. And Cena didn't really have anything. He didn't have anything, but what he did was immensely important. And we're going to talk about this because it really hurt some people's feelings. Cena comes out talking about it's been 20 years since their last pay-per-view in London. What took him so long? And he starts talking about the decision makers think that the London crowd is hostile, that they're a distraction, that they try to take over the show. But they don't know what they're talking about because the crowd is the show. Then he says that he's here on behalf of the people of London because they are underappreciated. They have earned his respect. And he wants to bring WrestleMania to London. This place is melting at this point. The crowd is absolutely melting at the idea of WrestleMania in London. It says, let the people, let the decision makers feel, let them see what it would be like for WrestleMania in London. And the crowd is, it's not even throwing babies in the air at this point, bro. It's like they're shooting off fireworks, It's nuts in that building at this point. Like it's insane. in this building at this point. Grayson Waller comes out and he gets in John Cena's face. Talks about John Cena needing a new lease on life. He needs something to help his career. He also doesn't understand why they want to have WrestleMania in England when they could have WrestleMania in Australia. Of course, he puts down England, says that Roman has, last time we saw him, he lost to Austin Theory. He also lost to Roman. He lost to The Fiend. And that he needs the Grayson Waller rub. And so when they have WrestleMania in Australia, he can come and do the Grayson Waller effect in order to save his career. Cena, of course, says no. Grayson Waller is mad. He attacks Cena from behind. Cena gives him the attitude adjustment / the FU. That ends the segment. So Grayson Waller got a nice little rub from John Cena. This segment ruled ass. This was tremendous. All right. This was a great pep rally right here. Like that's all this was just a great pep rally. We come out here and we put over the crowd, put over the energy, and then drop the bomb that we're probably doing WrestleMania in London. Now, believe it or not, a lot of your favorite dirt sheet guys caught major attitudes about the whole WrestleMania in London thing. Oh, I wonder where WrestleMania is going to be, said Brian Alvarez. Now, because I can only see like 6,000 posts or whatever a day, I can't go through and look at everything right now. Twitter is an absolute disaster at the moment. But I saw enough. To know that there are a lot of people who not too long ago was talking about everybody should just support wrestling. Everybody should just be happy that there's so much wrestling. They act like WrestleMania is going to be the exact same day as AEW's Wembley show. And then they flipped out because WWE is dropping the price on 2K23 to compete, of course, with AEW's game, which is the reason they're doing all this stuff. They're going to run WrestleMania in Wembley because of All In Wembley. They're going to drop the price of their product, which has already been out for 3 months, because AEW just dropped a video game. Why would I get angry that these two companies are competing against each other when one company keeps saying they want to compete? WWE keeps saying that they're not competition. They don't want anything to do with them, blah, 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 blah. AEW keeps, putting out these press releases about how they have the younger, smartest demographic and how they broke the attendance records of all this stuff and all this kind of crap. It was just recently, I believe it was, that I think Meltzer was talking about AEW Forbidden Door selling more tickets than Money in the Bank, and it was in 2 different cities. It's stuff like that. So when WWE does something, like, okay, you guys want to have All in Wembley? We'll have WrestleMania in Wembley. Let's see how that works out. No date mentioned. It could be 5 years from now. It could be 7 years from now. It could be 10 years from now. Nobody knows. But these people got upset. They literally got angry. These are the support wrestling crowds. These are the people who claim that the UK audience didn't get enough wrestling, that they love wrestling, and they've been underappreciated for all this time. And now somebody drops the bomb about WrestleMania in London. Instead of saying, finally, it's about time they decided to do it. All it took for AEW to do it first. It becomes I get, what building are they going to run? Oh, I see what they're going to do now. It's like, so what? So what? Really? Do you feel a certain way that McDonald's and Burger King are in competition? If Walmart and Target are going to compete for my dollar, do I give a damn? I don't care. So why do you care? What is your investment that AEW is going to do, I guess, some kind of whatever, 66,000, I think they said, in Wembley, and then WWE is going to come in with WrestleMania and probably beat it? Why do you care? Why do you give a damn? I don't see why you should care about that. If you're an English wrestling fan, you should be sitting back saying, I'll believe it when I see it. To be quite honest, having that tease seems a little unfair unless you're going to drop a date, And that was my one problem with this. Is you come out and you tell these people, we're going to try to get WrestleMania in London, and they get all super excited. It's something they're going to be talking about on social media when they can, because Twitter is an absolute disaster right now. But you're getting them all jazzed up about the idea, but there's no date in sight. You also I get what they're trying to do. Is they're trying to apply pressure to the London government to give them some kind of subsidy to run WrestleMania in London, which is exactly what they're trying to do. And I see it. People think that the decision makers is like Vince and all of those guys, which is part of it. The real decision makers are the government of London. How much money are they going to be able to give away? And I wouldn't even say give away, because a tax subsidy, well, yes, because a subsidy could be an absolute payout, or it could be tax reductions or whatever. What are they willing to do to bring WrestleMania to London? So now the pressure is not really on Vince and all those guys. They don't care about where they hold these shows. The issue is going to be, what is the government of London willing to do to bring WrestleMania to that city? And so now the ball is in their court. You think that is you trying to impress Vince. Vince don't give a damn where he gets his money from. He does business with the Saudis. The issue is going to be whether the London government is willing to cough up the money to bring WrestleMania to London, which they now are going to be under a little bit of pressure to do. They're going to be under a little bit of pressure to do it. We'll see if it actually happens or not. They now, here's the weird thing. Before AEW even did the Wembley thing, WWE already set this standard with the Welsh government, with the Clash at the Castle, because that was heavily subsidized in terms of an event. Impact also just did a show, I believe, in Australia that is heavily subsidized by the Australian government. So that's the new move for these companies now, is can we get governments to subsidize this product in this area? So this is a dare by WWE to the government of London to see if they're willing to subsidize WrestleMania in London, because if they are, they will do it. If not, they're probably not going to do it, and then this promo will seem very mean in 5 years when it still hasn't happened yet. But I'm just putting it out there because this is a realistic take. But all of these people who are shitting their pants because they're upset that WWE and AEW are competing in London, if you're an English wrestling fan, you should be very happy, because you're going to get this big Wembley show no matter what WWE does. And then maybe in a few years, you'll get WrestleMania. You should be thrilled. Me watching WrestleMania in the middle of the day, okay, I guess. I guess if I have to watch WrestleMania at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, fine. You could watch WrestleMania, then go on about the rest of your day. So that ought to work out not too bad. But, so I'm not against WrestleMania being in London. But here's the thing. Now that they have dropped this bomb, what do you think the Saudis are willing to do? That's my question. That's the first thing that came to my mind. After I said to myself two things. One, why are these people mad that WWE wants to run WrestleMania in London? Especially if it's Wembley, who gives a shit? Two, how much money are they looking to get from London in order to run that show? But the third thing I said is, if they're willing to run London, what are the Saudis willing to do? Are the Saudis willing to cough up who knows how many billion? They already subsidized this tune to WWE like $5 billion. Are they willing to double it to bring WrestleMania to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, or whatever, Jeddah? Are they willing to do that? And I'm saying the ball is in their court. When they are courting governments now, which they have been doing the last several years, because WrestleMania has been subsidized for several years now. That stuff, very, very interesting, but they're looking to see what they can get out of it. WWE's big events are subsidized. I don't know about AEW's. If they can't get them subsidized, then they need to think about it. They need to consider it. But I don't think they bring in the kind of revenue that WWE brings in terms of casuals and all that kind of stuff. But I'm just saying, they need to reconsider. Because this is how WWE is going to end up winning any type of quote-unquote war. Even if they don't sell more tickets, they will have spent less money because they're going to be subsidized. So that's going to be up to the government of London in order to make that happen. So in 5 years, don't look at Vince and say, "Oh, Vince, you told me it's going to be WrestleMania in London." He could be like, "No, Philadelphia gave us more money, or willing to give us a bigger tax cut, or whatever the hell. We'll just do it there, or Houston or somebody like that. So if you want to play with the big dogs, you gotta step in. And I wouldn't be surprised if they just start courting various international governments. As long as they don't have to have WrestleMania in Japan, where it's gonna be 5 a.m. or something like that, then I ought to be good. I ought to be good. Saudi Arabia, all right. England, fine. But not anywhere where it's gonna be like 4 a.m, because I don't want to deal with that. So after Cena gives us a bit of an intermission, we have the women's Money in the Bank ladder match, which was won by Io Sky, which was absolutely the right choice. So there was a lot of whispers floating around that Zelina Vega was going to get taken out of the match and replaced by Charlotte. That got people real tight-assed, and then it didn't happen. Just like the Dominic Mysterio, Cody Rhodes main event thing didn't happen, and people got real tight-assed about it. It's like, look, WWE sometimes leaks false information just to see if people are going to be invested in it. I saw, John Pollock, who say that, I'm getting new information saying that Cody and Dominic is going to be the co-main event. It went on fourth, exactly where I thought it should have been. That seems about right for a match that has nothing to be gained, nothing to be lost, and one clear good guy, one clear bad guy, and the good guy's clearly going to win. Yeah, you can do that match third. You don't need to do that in the main event. Why would that be the main event? So they were real tight-assed about that. I wonder how many people are actually going to apologize for lying to you about Charlotte replacing Zelina Vega because it didn't happen. So are you going to get an apology for that? Probably not. But it is what it is. I'm dumbfounded by this. But this continues what Triple H has been doing. Triple H has been pushing Judgment Day and Damage Control consistently since he took over. So it made sense that he decided to go with Judgment Day in one match, Damage Control in the other. All right, fine. Now, I actually like the women's Money in the Bank match a little bit more than the men's, because I like the field of the women's match a lot more than the men's. The men's Money in the Bank match is incredibly weak. Here, you at least had 3 strong contenders that could win the match. So it had me a little bit more excited about who could win. So I was actually not upset at all about the placement. Like, some people were kind of tight-assed about the Money in the Bank match, the men's match being first. I didn't really care because there was like only one possible winner. It was either LA Knight or Logan Paul, and that was pretty much it. I didn't see Damian Priest coming. But here, there was at least 3 solid options that you had with Io, Becky, and Trish. So to me, it was like, okay, which way are they going to go? They decided to go with Io. That was right. It was the right decision. Okay. Let's talk about these entrances for a minute. Poor Samantha Irvin announced that Bayley was representing I messed it up by saying she represents Damage Control, which is absolutely correct. Instead, Samantha said that she was representing Judgment Day. She just kept moving. She didn't even try to repeat herself. She just, okay, Bayley represents Judgment Day for the next 2 seconds. The next thing I had an issue with was Zelina Vega, her Tron and everything, has Mexican colors, and she's not Mexican. I know that those are the colors of the LWO. Those are Mexican colors. She's Puerto Rican. Why does everything have to be a one-size-fit-all? Put her thing in the colors of Puerto Rico, for Christ's sake. That's just a tiny, tiny problem that I have. Of course, these dorks are out there trying to harass Auntie Pam. I'm tired of it. This is going to be the stand up for Bayley segment, where all of these red coats insist on trying to serenade Auntie Pam, and she hates it. She doesn't like it. She doesn't like you. Stop it. Rant over. Anyway, Zoe Stark broke out some handcuffs, which I was not happy about that, not thrilled about the handcuffs. But Becky fights it off, and she fights, I like that about her. Even though it might be the spot, and it may come across like it's the spot, she doesn't just surrender herself to it and make it look like shit. When it took Zoe Stark too long to remove that turnbuckle pad, she had fought off, and that was pretty much it. She fought off. And it came across like, okay, maybe that was the spot and it got blown, and then Becky just said, screw it. But also, when you saw the end, you know that it wasn't the spot anyway. But when the handcuffs initially came out, I didn't know what to think because I'm not really a big fan of handcuffs in wrestling matches. So, it is what it is. I think it's just kind of overused in terms of gimmick. When Bayley pushed Io off of the ladder, it was a sort of meaningful moment. And especially when it comes to Io and her character, because that's when she realized that it truly is every woman for herself. So when she handcuffs Becky and Bayley, their arms in between the ladder, that was a very big spot. I like that spot. When she climbed over Bayley, though, I didn't like that. And I didn't like that because Bayley could still reach and grab her ankle or something like that. So it came across as being kind of unrealistic that Bayley couldn't still stop her from winning. She could still stop her from winning. She still has another arm. It's not... Whatever. Anyway, it was a good match. I think the girls, they did less than the guys did, which was probably for the best because every time the women do some Bob the Builder stuff, it never turns out right. I mean, how many matches have been ruined because Bayley couldn't lift a table or something like that? The upper body strength of these female wrestlers is just no good. It's no good. But so they had some help. They was helping each other in terms of Trish and Zoe and stuff like that. There was a code red off of the one ladder onto another by Zelina Vega from Zoe Stark. At this point, I heard that Zelina's cousin is Amazing Red, and I didn't know that. That's very interesting. I don't really care about Amazing Red, but I know who he is. I know who the guy is, so it's very interesting that they're related. Interesting stuff. I wonder how they're related. Anyway, Io did a moonsault off of the ladder. Now, Butch had did a moonsault off the ladder in the first match, and he was dressed like a can of Pabst Blue Ribbon. But in any event, she did a moonsault off a higher plateau than he did, so it was a little bit more impressive. And also, the camera followed her up, so you didn't see them stabilizing the ladder, but you could see the ladder shaking underneath her. You could see somebody was clearly trying to stabilize the ladder. That's good production. We don't see people actually holding the ladder, which is bad production. They zoomed in on Io's facial expression and all this kind of stuff to show that, she's about to do the moonsault. So it was great. Bayley getting fish hooked with the handcuff was interesting. That's all I'll say. I'll say it was interesting. Trish Stratus and Zoe Stark in their obsession with Becky Lynch in this match. I like the little fights and stuff they were having. I like the manhandle slam from the ladder. From the announce table onto the ladder by Becky. I liked all that stuff. All that stuff was very solid. The Trish Stratus and Becky Lynch stuff I thought was really good here. Zelina Vega was a little understated. She did some stuff, but she didn't do a lot, it seems. So I like this match quite a bit. So I can't complain too much about the women's Money in the Bank match. Right winner. I saw it coming. Not that much of a surprise that it happened the way that it did. And no problems there. World Heavyweight Championship match, Finn Balor versus Seth Rollins. Very aggressive, technical match. Finn Balor was working very aggressively here. But let's talk about this entrance because Seth Rollins' serenade went over long. It was very long. I started to get aggravated. It was so long. I'm starting to not like this. Initially it was kind of cool that people were singing Seth Rollins' theme song. I thought it was okay. But then when it became we have to do this for 5 minutes, I started getting pissed. We don't need to be that long. Maybe 2 verses and then that's it. And that's it. That's enough. We don't have to do this again and again and again. Just put a time limit on that thing. Let's not just do it until Seth Rollins is bored. Because the people are going to do it during the match too. So why stop the show and do it? Just keep this thing moving. Anyway, Finn Balor, the match was very, bizarre from a psychology standpoint, because Finn was trying to win. Like, he was trying to win very badly in terms of doing roll-ups and counters and, victory rolls and stuff. And I'm like, you're bitter, you're angry, you're miserable. You want to get revenge on Seth Rollins, which means you kind of want to hurt him, right? So why are you trying to steal victories with like roll-ups and small packages and everything? Why not just go hard, that was just like my approach to psychology. Is like he would be, pit bull, like, mad dog, like he would really go after Seth Rollins. But instead, it was kind of like he just wanted the championship. He wanted to take the title. And, okay, that makes sense. But it made this match, I think, kind of normal, like a normal championship match, when it could have been something more. I felt like there could have been something missing. Like, there was a second gear, I think, that was missing here. And then, of course, it went off the rails when Damian Priest came out. He distracted Seth Rollins at first, and that allowed Finn Balor to get the advantage with the coup de grace off the announce desk, the coup de grace off the steps. And it seemed like he was going to win. Now, at this point, the dweebs in the crowd are chanting, "Cash it in." They were just chanting for Seth Rollins not too long ago, but now they're chanting for Seth Rollins to lose his title. That's the stuff that I don't like. It's like you're not following the story. You're not supposed to get, if you wanted this guy to win, then you wouldn't be singing his song and everything. You should want the guy you were singing for, the guy you were very excited to see. You should want that guy to win. You should want these people to cash it in. You should be booing that. You should hate that. But because we have a super smart audience, and the audience is a little too smart for their own good, they just want to see a new champion. They don't care if it screws the guy who they've been singing for the last fucking 10 minutes. It's bad psychology, and it makes no sense. That's why you shouldn't listen to mobs. That's why you don't listen to mobs. I know a lot of people are going to be like, "Oh, my uncle, the crowd is always right." No, they're not. That's why you don't listen to mobs. They don't know what they want. They can't make up their minds. There's always something they want more than the thing that they have. They got Seth Rollins. They wanted to sing his song. That was great. But they want to see a new champion more than anything. They want to be able to pop for the new champ. So it was all like, "Oh yeah, cash it in, cash it in." Okay. Whatever. Damian Priest didn't cash it in. Instead, he went and had a seat. Finn Balor looked like he was about to win. Then Damian Priest threatened to cash it in again, which distracted Finn Balor. And then Finn Balor lost, went to the stomp, to the head. Finn Balor has... whatever wrestling god there may be, whether he is Vince McMahon or some other deity, does not want Finn Balor to win a championship ever again. Look, I knew he wasn't going to win, but having him lose in this way was a kick to the balls. He got screwed over by his own friend. After the match, Damian Priest and Finn Balor were arguing about it. 7 years Finn Balor waited for revenge, and Damian Priest screwed it. They tied it into Damian Priest getting a little bit of revenge of his own over Finn Balor getting in the way during his championship match not too long ago. So it made sense in storyline. If that's what we're going to do with this thing, where we're going to have Damian Priest constantly shadowing Finn Balor around, and maybe this thing is going to get used to break up Judgment Day because Finn Balor is obsessed with the title, and then Damian Priest also has an opportunity for the title. Okay, I guess we're going to see the end for JD McDonough. But I would rather see somebody come out of this thing as a babyface rather than it's just being two heels who want to snake each other. And that seems to be where we are right now, where they're basically two heels that want to stab each other in the rib cage, from behind. So, all right. Bloodline Civil War, the Usos, Roman Reigns, and I like to think I was one of the few people. I'm not going to give myself all the credit and say I was the only person talking about this. I was one of the few people, the only person I know of, really, because I don't really listen to too many other podcasts. You guys probably listen to podcasts. You probably have heard people throw out 100 things. that said that Roman Reigns being pinned would be an excellent finish to this match. And I said it on I think I said it during the prediction show. And that's exactly what happened. Roman Reigns has not been pinned in 3.5 years. He gets pinned by the Uso splash. The Usos win this match. The aura of invincibility for Roman Reigns is over. This seems like a perfect cherry on top of the Bloodline story. Roman Reigns not only loses a match, but loses a match personally. And cannot blame Solo Sikoa for the loss. So it's one that he has to own, which is even more interesting because it hasn't happened to this version of Roman Reigns yet. The match itself was slow, but it built up over time, you know. So I like that. The huddle. I thought the huddle was great. Heyman calls in Roman and Solo, and he says, he wants your sons to answer to him. That's what he wants. And that kind of fires Roman up. Because, you know, he's like, Jey Uso wants my spot. He wants to be me. You know. England was saying weird things to Roman. He got very upset. Said it's the dumbest place on earth. Why are we here? They did the simultaneous tag again. I cannot stand it. I can't stand it. It's awful. Jey Uso gets in the ring. Does the Rock's punches, which I actually want to give him a little bit of credit for. That was cool. There was a double spear by the Usos onto Roman. Roman wasn't going to get up from that, and Solo had to save him. That was a good spot. Roman countered Jimmy's Uso splash into a guillotine, which led to the big ref bump. There's always a ref bump in a Roman Reigns match, even though this time it wasn't really even needed because there was not going to be any interference. So the ref bump existed this time so Jimmy could get the visual pin on Roman without Roman actually having to get beat or kicking out of the Usos finish, which is the 1D. So that was interesting too. Roman and Solo, double Uranagis, the spike on Jimmy. Then they do the spike and the spear combination on Jey. The crowd is chanting bullshit. Bullshit. They're angry because Roman and Solo are about to win until they don't. That kick out sent that place to the next level. When Jey kicked out of that spear, Samoan spike combination, we went to the next level. Now Roman is visibly distraught. He's almost in tears. Solo he's maintained his composure. He starts going after him, and Roman's like, yeah, that's what we got to do. So he's just pounding Jey, and Solo is pounding Jimmy. Solo puts Jimmy on the announce table. He runs across the barricade to splash on Jimmy and misses. Nobody in the pool. Jimmy and Jey work together. Roman hits the spear on Jey. When Jey kicks out, he hits Roman in the nuts, which is pretty much, I think, something they did in their singles match. I think Roman hit Jey in the nuts. So they got us out here trying to remember the finishes to matches from 2 years ago. Anyway, Jey wins with the Uso splash after the double super kick. The place blew up. They're singing the Usos theme song. Roman is flat in the ring. Then he rolls out to the floor. He's, wiping his face in disbelief. He lost. He was the one who was beat. Jey Uso is in the ring. The conquering effing hero, Jey Uso. Main event, Jey Uso. And it was a fantastic moment. Excellent moment. The match was a little slow. So if you're more of I want my matches to have more action, this is not going to be for you. But if you're into story and psychology and looking at how they're putting things together, this match was next level. This match was tremendous. And they built it up slow. They gave it time to build. And then, everybody's breaking out somewhat new things, but also showing how they putting an old spin on new stuff. Like Solo Sikoa has a traditional Anoa'i moveset with the trapezius hold and the hip attack and the Samoan spike and all that kind of stuff. People think that he's He's just doing Umaga. But he's also doing Yokozuna. He's also doing a little bit of the stuff from the Wild Samoans. He's a more traditional Samoan wrestler, as opposed to the Usos and Roman, who are a little bit more modern. But they did the Rock's move, like the rock bottom. They called it the Uranagi, whatever. And the super kick, or the side kick, the shuffle side kick, which is, of course, one of Rikishi's moves. So you started seeing a lot of things from the Anoa'i family in here. So it was a nice little knot on this whole thing. Will there be a rematch? That's going to be my question. Are they going to run it back for SummerSlam? I always assumed that they would. But I think now that Roman has lost, his title matches could mean a lot more now, because now he's beatable. He has lost his bloodline. He's lost his aura of invincibility. Only thing now he has left is the titles, and he has Solo. But I got a feeling that even though he was the one who was pinned, he's going to blame Solo for the loss, because Solo tried to splash Jimmy through the announce table, which he didn't tell him to do. He did it on his own. At one point, Solo decided to basically fly off the handle. All Roman said was destroy him. He didn't say put yourself in danger too. He just said destroy this guy, destroy him. And Solo went about this wholly the wrong way. So I'm very, very interested in where we go from here, in terms of Roman and the Usos. And this has been the beautiful thing about the Bloodline story, is by doing little things like Roman being pinned. Now you can probably get another month of story out of that. There's how the Usos feel about it. What do they do next? Then you've got the Solo Roman situation, the Heyman Roman situation. All of this leading up to SummerSlam. Because we got a couple of weeks before it's time for SummerSlam, and is there enough time to build a Jey Uso Roman Reigns singles match? Because that could possibly go with this match, since Jey is the one who pinned Roman. Maybe Jey is the one who challenges Roman for the title. Or because in this match, the Usos were just a better team. While Solo and Roman were very strong individual wrestlers, they weren't exactly a tag team. The Usos showed that they were a better team. Double team moves and different things like that was more on the Uso side, which makes sense because they're, 42-time tag team champions or whatever. So there's a lot of stuff you can squeeze out of this story. And it was an A+ show with an A+ finish. So I don't know what more to say. This was a very good show. You could say that they whiffed on LA Knight if you so desire. Also, a lot of people feel a lot of ways about the LA Knight decision, and I understand that. But if LA Knight is truly ready, what's another couple of weeks? It's not that big of a deal. I think some people are looking at it in terms of just not liking Seth and maybe just wanting to replace him. Some people just not liking Judgment Day or Damian Priest or whatever, which is fine. But I look at it in terms of story. They clearly have something in mind when it comes to Damian Priest. And so that's where they went with him. When it comes to Io Sky, I think it's the exact same thing. They have something planned. And they've been teasing Asuka versus Io. They've been teasing that for a while. So I'm willing to give them a shot and see what's going on here. But I think that you're probably going to get LA Knight wrestling for the United States Championship, because he's a SmackDown wrestler, right? So you're probably going to end up wrestling for the United States title and winning it. Turning him babyface and having him wrestle Austin Theory is probably going to be the best for both of them. One, because it's somebody Austin Theory has not worked with yet. Two, Austin Theory is a heel. LA Knight can officially turn babyface. And the pop with him beating Austin Theory still ought to be pretty big. But it won't be a complete and total super push, put the rocket to him, like it would be if he was the world champion. So I'm okay with him winning the U.S. title or whatever. And I understand the strike while the iron's hot thing. I've already been through that. But I think he's going to end up being a United States champion probably at SummerSlam, probably a little bit before. So that's where I'm going to guess. But overall, there were some big returns. There were some big angles. Things happened on this show. I'm one of those people that is not a huge fan of the crowd being marks for themselves and them singing songs and me not understanding what the hell they're saying or why they're cheering or what they're singing. Like, I don't like that kind of stuff. Which was my problem with the NXT audience. It's the madness of mobs. And I don't necessarily like that. I like an educated crowd. I don't like an unruly crowd. Like, I like the energy from the crowd, but the energy should be pointed. The energy should be enhance the product, not distract from the product. I am one of those people who truly do believe that the UK audience is a distraction, And I think a lot of times these super hype audiences like Philadelphia and like the UK, they want to be the center of the show and they want to take over the show. So I disagree with John Cena when he's like, well, you guys are the show. I was like, wait a minute. I didn't pay any tickets to hear weirdos from the UK chant weird stuff and entertain themselves because they don't like what's going on in the ring or because a guy they don't like just won or whatever the case may be. That's not why I sat down and watched his product. I don't want to hear these people sing Seth Rollins' song for 15 minutes. I don't want to hear that. I'm sorry. I would like an educated audience, that, reacts the right way to the right moments, as opposed to being the guy at the movie theater that's talking on his phone, but because you're reacting to what's going on the screen, I'm supposed to ignore all of the other noise that you're making, So I'm not a huge fan of the audience, but at least they had energy. At least WWE gave them something to react to with the big returns in the turn for Shayna Baszler and Roman being pinned. Stuff happened. The only match where nothing actually happened was Cody and Dominic, which was a straight up simple match. Other matches, things actually occurred in those matches, So this was fine. This was I think, a really good show. Was it a top tier show? I don't really look at shows that way. It is a show I will revisit because I did like Riddle and Gunther. I thought that was simply the best wrestling match on the show. Dominic and Cody was perfectly fine and really good. I'm not a huge fan of 2 ladder matches on the show. I've come to live with it, but still not a big fan of it. I think there was a second gear missing between Balor and Rollins that I felt like there needed to be something more there. And the main event had an excellent finish, movie quality finish. Unfortunately, I felt like the match was a little long, and I think the show was a little long, and I thought the match was a little slow. That was just me. The nerve holds and that kind of stuff. I was kind of like, okie dokie. Like, let's. I understand he was trying to bring the crowd down to get the crowd to force the crowd to pay attention to what they're doing. They're not trying to work too fast and the crowd get lost in what they're doing. So I understand why they did it, and I understand why they do it. It's just I felt like that match in and of itself was long, all right? But it came with a perfect dessert with Jey Uso beating Roman Reigns. It doesn't affect Roman losing the titles. I know people think that that's going to be some kind of big deal that Roman lost the match. Oh my God, it's going to steal from him losing the championships. It's like, no, it's just another element that you could add to both Roman and to the Usos. It doesn't necessarily mean that whoever beats Roman is not special. You have to stop thinking that every little thing is, like, this whole thing is fragile. Like, it's not. It has a little bit more density than you're willing to give it credit for. Roman doesn't lose 100 fucking matches from now to when he loses the titles. If he loses 100 matches, then yeah, it doesn't mean anything when you beat him. But if he lost one tag team match in August and he doesn't lose the titles until April, understand how far that is. He hadn't lost a match since December of 2019, I think they said. So it meant something for him to give this to Jey, which is Jey's reward for his effort in this storyline, as he got to pin Roman Reigns. Just like the reward for Sami Zayn was he got very close to beating Roman Reigns. Next is going to be somebody actually taking the titles from Roman Reigns. They have made every single thing feel important so that when these things occur, they matter. Okay? But you can do them more than once. I wouldn't suggest beating Roman a bunch of times from now till then. I wouldn't actually suggest Roman losing another match between now and then. Of him losing the titles, I mean. But losing this one match is not going to be the end of the world. LA Knight not winning the title or the Money in the Bank tonight does not end his push. It's not destroying his momentum. You can do other things. This is for Damian Priest. Something else may be for LA Knight. Wrestling fans have to, accept that stories go in different directions. And just because you don't get the girl at the end of this one doesn't mean that there aren't other girls in the story for you to have a happily ever after with. Just because you don't defeat this enemy doesn't mean there aren't other enemies for you to defeat. Just because you don't climb this mountain doesn't mean there aren't other struggles that you have to overcome. There's a lot of different ways to write these stories. Allow them to unfold in ways that make sense. You don't have to have knee-jerk reactions all the time. There are things that would have pissed me off for sure, but I didn't see anything on this show that pissed me off. LA Knight not winning is like big deal. They weren't pushing LA Knight anyway. So why would all of a sudden he win Money in the Bank? Because you like what he says, yeah. It's like, okay, everybody likes that. But he's not in a feud with anybody right now. He's not doing anything. He's just showing up randomly. Let me talk to you. Yeah. And everybody's like, I like that guy. It's like, okay, but he's not doing anything. Let's get him some momentum first. He's just getting started. People think, like, I was saying the same thing, like the guy's 40, you got to do something now. And that's true. But at the same time, the guy's not 81. It's not like we're sitting back like, oh my goodness, he's going to have a heart attack soon. He's not. He's going to be fine. Like he's going to be all right. So let things breathe. And if in 4 weeks we end up with Damian Priest looking like Austin Theory, then we can say, oh my goodness, this is awful. Because we know that Triple H is not the smartest guy. And unless he's got an ironclad plan, hopefully this Damian Priest thing works, because if it doesn't, he's going to look like an absolute goofball for not giving it to LA Knight. But I'm going to give him the opportunity because I like Damian Priest. So here we go. Like, share, subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later.
MagMongoSlade. Best house I ever drew, Daddy.